In this video, I'll be sharing with you a requested tutorial on how to cut this stylish halter neck dress with double layered gathers and flowns. And this dress is from Lucy O. So if this is something you like, kindly hit on the subscribe button. So to start, I'm going to be drafting the front and the back pattern of this dress together. You need to mark your shoulder to bust, under bust, waist, and then 7 inches extra to get your hip point. Also note, you need to get the full length of your dress, and the full length of my dress is 35 inches, but we'll be working on the upper part first. I'll go ahead to mark my shoulder divided by 2 and come down by 1 inch. From that point, I'm going to go ahead to mark a basic neckline of 3 inches at this point, which I'll be connecting it to my neckline. So after I'm done marking that, I'll place my ruler to connect. The next step is to mark a basic neckline of 3 by 2.5 inches, and I'll go ahead to connect. Now after I'm done connecting, I'm going to find my chest line, which is my bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. On that point, I'll draw out a straight line, then place my tape back and mark my shoulder divided by 2. Now I'm going to go ahead to place my ruler and I'll connect back at that point. So after I'm done connecting, I'm going to go ahead to divide what I have here into 2 and come out by ½ inch. So at this point, I'll go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Now connect from this point to the ½ inch at your armhole and to the upper part of your pattern. So after I'm done connecting that, I'll start by marking my dart. I'll start with marking my nipple to nipple divided by 2, and I'm going to mark this from the bust to the under bust to the waist and to the basque or hip point length. So now I'm going to go ahead to place my ruler and draw a straight line all the way to my hip point. So if you're taller, you'll be using 8 inches for your hip point. So I'll be marking ½ inch on both sides, and I'll come down by 1 inch from my bust and go ahead to connect this all the way up and also connect at the other side of my pattern. So after connecting that, I'll go ahead to come down by 4 inches here. So after connecting at this point, I'll go ahead to take this all the way up and also connect at the other side of my pattern. So now this is what I have, and after that I'll start inserting my measurements, but I'll use my marker to outline it first. After I'm done outlining, the next step I'll take is to start inserting my measurements. I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4, add my sewing allowance, my waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace, and add my sewing allowance. Mark my waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace, and I'll add my sewing allowance. So here I'll mark my hip circumference divided by 4 and I'll add my sewing allowance. Now use any sewing allowance of your choice, and I'll go ahead to connect this starting from the bust to the under bust and all the way to the blouse length. So after I'm done marking this, I'll go ahead to use my marker and I'm going to connect. Now the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead to mark my back neckline. Just like I said, I'm using the same pattern for both the front and the back. For the back neckline, use 3 by 1 inch, and I'm going to go ahead to connect. So after I'm done connecting, I'll outline. So when you're cutting out this pattern, you first of all cut out the front pattern, then go ahead to cut out the back. So we are going to go ahead to cut the neckline of the back first, and then I'm going to trace out the sides of this pattern. So at this point, if you have any question, please kindly hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, leave your comments at the comment section. So after I'm done cutting this, let's go ahead to work the halter neck or shoulder part. I'll come in by 1 inch. You can also use 1.5 from the neckline. Connect it all the way to the chest line of your pattern this way and go ahead to cut it out. So we are done drafting that part and I'll cut it out. Next, we'll be working on the lower part of this dress. For the lower part of this dress, I'm going to like measure like 3.5 inches for my waistline. You can also use 4 inches, especially if your hip is like 8 inches after your waistline, and I'll connect it all the way down. So for this dart, you just sew it up when you're sewing your dress, and I'll go ahead to cut out this part. Now we are done drafting out for the upper part of this dress. Now if you want to cut the front, you have to like bend the neckline, but first, since we are using one pattern, you're going to go ahead to cut out the back pattern of this dress. So when drafting out, I added like a zipper allowance. Let's say if you're drafting this, you can just place your pattern on the fabric and add a zipper allowance to it. So I went in by 1/2 inch from my waist. I extended this all the way to the upper part, and I also extended it down. Now I'll go ahead to cut this out. After cutting this out, I'm now going to go ahead to cut out the neckline. So after cutting the back, you just go ahead to cut it out. Then you can now trace out your zipper allowance that you added. Now go ahead to cut out the neckline for the front. So this is what you use to cut out the front. The previous one is what you use to cut out the back. So now you have to get like the full length of your dress before you get the gathers at the lower part of this dress. Now the full length of my dress is 35 and my shoulder to waist is 17 inches. I added extra 3.5, which will give me 20.5 inches. So if I subtract 20.5 from 35 inches, what I will have is 14.5. So that 14.5, you are going to add like 1 inch folding allowance and probably joining allowance to it. So let's say altogether you have 16 inches because of the folding allowance and the joining allowance. So for the first layer of gathers, you cut about 3 yards by 16. That is for the longest length. Now for the second length, you can cut about 3 yards by 12 inches. Now you're going to gather both of them together, and you're now going to go ahead to attach it to the dress, but that will be after joining your front pattern to the back pattern, and then you now gather it all the way around your waistline. Now the next step we are going to take is how to cut out the flaws at the neckline of this dress. Now let's say this is your pattern, your fabric. You're going to fold it into two this way and then fold it again. We are trying to find the midpoint of this pattern. So after you're done folding it this way, go ahead to open it up. Now you're going to find the center of this pattern. Now draw a straight line following those lines that you have, and with that you're going to have the center of this pattern. Now depending on the size of your flaws, so I'm using 1.5 to do this. I'll start marking 1.5 all the way round this pattern, right? So after marking that, I'll go ahead to connect from one side to the other and to this point. So after I'm done connecting that, I'll start marking 1.5 inches all the way around my pattern again. So let's say this is the fabric. After that, you now connect to that next 1.5 inches, connect this to the other one and connect. Let's say for your flaws, you're using about 3 inches or 5 inches, because whatever you have, you're supposed to like weave it out. You're going to add little allowance. So you're going to use that measurement and you're going to use it to cut out your flaws this way. I'm using this pattern paper to illustrate how you're going to use this to cut this out on your own fabric. So you're going to cut enough length that you'll be using to like drape it or attach it on the shoulder part of your dress this way. Then you can now go ahead to weave it out and attach it on the upper part of your dress.